Just a quick note before we dive in. If you've ever felt like your business depends entirely on Instagram and you're tired of chasing the algorithm just to get seen, I've got something for you. I'm running a free masterclass called Beyond the Feed, Finding Clients Without Relying on Social Media. It's designed for doulas, lactation consultants, antenatal educators, and all of you brilliant birth and postpartum workers who want to bring in more steady clients without spending all day online. I'll be sharing real practical ways to grow your business that doesn't depend on posting constantly, going viral, or burning out. It's happening Thursday the 12th of June at 7 p.m. and there will be a replay if you can't make it live. Head to the link in the show notes to save your spot and let's take some of the pressure off social. Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Niamh Cassidy, lactation consultant, antenatal educator, and business coach for birth and postnatal workers who are doing brilliant work in the world and want to do it well, ethically and sustainably, and with some confidence in your back pocket. So this week I'm bringing you a bit of a behind the scenes taster from Your Birth Biz's live Q&A sessions. So Your Birth Biz is the membership that I am now running, and it's only been open to a select few founding members until now. If you were listening to this on the day it's released, the doors will be open to the public for the first time tomorrow. So this membership is for people like you who want regular, practical support to grow your business in a grounded way with a bunch of Birth Biz besties cheering you along. The doors are only open for a week though, so don't miss your chance. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Now, I won't be spilling all the answers our members pay for, but I am going to walk you through 3 of the questions that came up in last month's Q&A and answer them for you here. So what happens in the membership is prior to the Q&A, members can submit their questions and then we answer them on the call. And the members are on the call as well, so they can add more to the question or give some context if needed, or if someone cannot attend the call, they can pre-submit the question and I will ask it and answer so that everyone benefits from the answers. So with the questions that we're going to cover today, if you're wondering what kind of policies your business should have or how to talk to your ideal client without sounding like a pushy marketer, or how to pay yourself without feeling like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, then you are in the right place. So let's get into it. First, we're going to start with policies and procedures and what do you really need. Now, this one is essential and it often gets pushed to the side because it feels a bit, dry, boring. But your policies and procedures are an important foundation that gives your business stability. And one of our Birth Biz besties asked about the minimum policies that you need. And while she was on the right track, because she talked about contracts, GDPR and cancellation policies, here's just some of the things that we discussed and that I suggested for your baseline. So let's start with a data protection policy. Especially if you are in the EU, you will need to have a data protection policy in line with GDPR, and in the States and in other countries there is similar legislation for data protection. So just make sure you have a decent enough understanding of the data protection laws in your country. And with GDPR, if you're working with sensitive data like any health history, so if we're taking birth histories or medical histories, then we have to be even a little bit more careful about our data protection. There are additional safeguards that we need to be put in place. So it's really important that everyone, I feel, should have a data protection policy. And it's not just about being on the right side of the law. It also helps build trust with your clients so they believe and understand that you are keeping their data safe and that you respect that as well. And part of that is also having a consent process. So especially because we're collecting health info, we need to be really clear on the fact that we are collecting this information, how long we'll be keeping it for, how we store it. All of this should be in our data protection policy so that people have an understanding of what we will be doing with their data and how we're going to look after it. Now, I personally have a policy that I will not work with anyone who does not consent to me storing their data because it would invalidate my insurance. So part of my consent is that if you would like to access the service, then, I need to store your data. So unfortunately, I will need to cancel with someone if they do not want their data stored, but it hasn't happened to date. So it's not something that comes up very much. So another policy that I feel is really important is a cancellation policy. And if you have a lot of different types of services, it doesn't have to be the same policy for each type of service that you have. So for example, I give more notice for cancelling an antenatal class because those classes are harder to fill last minute than I do for lactation consultations, which I can usually get someone rebooked in more quickly. So like with my antenatal classes, people can get a full refund if they cancel within 2 weeks of the upcoming class, a 50% refund if it's within 1 week of the upcoming class, and then no refund after that. And then with my lactation work, it's only 48 hours rather than 2 weeks, because if someone cancels on me with 48 hours to go, typically I will be able to fill that spot. So my policy is shorter for that. But really you have to look at your services, what you need to feel safe in what you're providing, and just making that really clear before people actually book, that they know what the cancellation policy is. So they need to be able to see that before they book. And another policy or contract that might be important for people is, in particularly if you're providing packages of care. So if something's going to be over a number of sessions, or like a birth doula where you're going, there's going to be pre and postnatal sessions plus the birth, really having a client contract or an agreement is really important. Now, they don't have to be pages and pages long, and clearer or more simple they are, the better, as long as your key policies are linked or included. So, you don't have to put the full text of your data protection policy into your client contract. You just need to have it linked in it so that people know what it is and how they can find it. It is a good idea if you're doing contracts to have them looked over by a legal professional in your jurisdiction. It's not something that you have to do to have a contract, but it's probably a good idea if that's a possibility, or at least if you have another friend who has a similar workflow that you do and they've had their contracts looked over professionally, then maybe they would be happy to share theirs with you as a template. So we don't always have to be reinventing the wheel. We can help each other out, but just having a contract that everybody can understand is just really, really important. As I said, in particular when there's packages of services involved. Just another little tip on the policies and procedures: don't have them like all over the place. Try and keep as many as you can in one place. So whether that's having like a page on your website that links to all of your policies, or whether you keep a Google Doc drive with all of your policies so that clients have access to. That's really important, just that all of that is kind of out in the open and there. And you can use AI to help you generate them, but always triple check the whole content, especially if it's long content, including having someone else read it. And preferably, as I said, if you have legal access, if you have access to a lawyer, to have them reread contracts in particular. Cancellation policies are pretty short and stuff, but contracts and data protection policies are a little bit more detailed, and they can benefit from having a legal eye over them. Okay, so the next question that we're going to look at was around dream clients and what I'm calling the pain point dilemma. So another one of our Birth Biz besties asked two really important questions. Firstly, she wanted to know how to get clear on your dream clients so that your content actually speaks to them. And secondly, whether we have to kind of lean into this idea of pain points in our messaging, because it is something that comes up in coaching and business industries a lot, to focus on pain points. But here's the spoiler: no, we don't. We don't have to focus on pain points. But let's start with the dream client question. It is tempting to just think that your dream client is pregnant people or postnatal families, but the truth is that's just a bit too broad. And if you try to speak to everyone, you end up connecting with no one. So we want to make sure that people really feel a connection with us. And the goal, it's not to exclude people, it's just to be specific enough that the right person feels like, she's talking to me. Oh, that's me. That's what we want them to kind of be thinking about. And I often say to think about who you love working with, what they're struggling with or what they're hoping for, and how can you help them feel the way they want to feel or grow in the way they want to grow. When you're thinking about your ideal client, and then when you're doing your messaging, paint a full picture. So not just the demographics of the person. So they're not just a 30-year-old woman on her first baby that lives in the middle class area. But you want to think about their emotions, their values, their fears, and their dreams. Now, this content, this ideal client, is something we go into really, really big detail in the Nest program. So the Nest program is my big signature 6-month coaching program. So that's really, really high level, really, really close touch. And we have like a really detailed module on ideal client and your messaging around your ideal client in there. So if that's something that you're interested in, send me a DM and I can get you on the wait list, or people in the membership get a discount to the next program if they decide to join. So that's just so you know about that. So as I was saying, you want to get into their emotions. How are they feeling? What do they value? What are they afraid of? What are their dreams? And really try and put that into our messaging around our ideal client. Now on to the pain points part of the question. This member said she doesn't like talking about pain points because it can feel a bit icky, it can feel a bit manipulative. And honestly, I agree. I'm not a fan of fear-based marketing at all. I don't like when I see, in particular, birth workers saying, if you don't do X, you're setting yourself up for trauma, or if you don't do this, this is going to happen to you. In particular, fear-based marketing around hospitals. And it's not that there aren't problems with hospitals, Janie Mac, like there is, but we have to be mindful that the vast majority of our clients are going to birth in a hospital. And I personally don't think scaring them about that is helpful for them. I don't think it's going to help them have a more positive birth by making them more scared. So pain points are out for me, but there is a bit of a nuance to it. We do need to acknowledge people's struggles, but without exploiting them. So I like to look at them more like the challenges that people are facing or the fears that they might have, rather than pain points. So for example, instead of saying, you're doing it all wrong if you're going to birth in the hospital and you're going to regret it unless you do this hypnobirthing course and then you might manage your hospital birth, you might say something like, feeling a bit unsure about how to prepare for birth. You're not alone, and it's completely normal to have questions, and that's why I created this hypnobirthing class. So we want to speak to a real worry, but with compassion and guidance rather than fear and urgency. So I hope those examples make sense. And I know I'm being a little bit over the top with pain points, but I have seen people say things not too far off what I've just said. And the great thing about the membership, I suppose, is that we get to go into a lot more detail when we're talking about this, and people can give examples and we can kind of brainstorm around them as well. And actually next month's training is on content that actually converts without making you feel like you've sold your soul to the algorithm. So we're going to be looking at how to create content, not just for content's sake, but that actually helps you bring in clients. So the third and final question that I'm going to go through today was one around, how do I pay myself? And this is one, I suppose, of the most practical and the most emotional parts of a business for a lot of birth workers. So this Birth Biz Bestie asked, if you have a business account and all your income and expenses go through that, how do you decide what to pay yourself? Okay, so this is really, really interesting. I suppose, firstly, paying yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. And even if you can't take much, taking something builds the habit and the mindset that your work deserves to be paid for. But then on the other hand, I do have some people who, whatever is left over, so what they take in versus what they pay out, whatever's left over every month, all of that goes into their personal account. And if that is something that you need to do for your family finances, then that's what you need to do. But if you're trying to build a really sustainable business that's going to grow and you're going to be able to invest in over time, I do recommend, instead of taking everything out, to set up a consistent monthly transfer. So if you're making hardly anything at the start, and that transfer can only be €10 or $10 a month or $50 or $100 or €100 a month, and that's all you can afford, then go with that. But just make sure there is something coming out of that account into your account so that you feel like you are getting paid. And then as your business grows, you can increase that amount. But as I said, you don't want to take everything that's left at the end of the month, leaving nothing to pay tax, to buy new tools, to sign up for things that are going to help you grow. You want to keep a bit in your business account for future expenses and for your business development. And it feels so much easier to invest in your business when you've got that little bit of a buffer built in. So you have money in your business account that is being used for the business. So it's not coming out of your personal account. And another insight that I shared with the members when we were talking about this was that, when you pay for something from your business account, from the money that's still in the business, it's really dependent obviously on the level of tax in your country. But if, here it's about between 40 and 50% tax. And that means that when you pay for something out of the business's money, it's really only about 60% of the cost compared to paying for it after income tax. So after you take it out of the business. So if you're buying a course, you're signing up for a membership, you're getting some equipment or some software, it can feel like less of a hit because you're using pre-tax income. So that's really, really handy to keep in mind when you're thinking about investing in your business. It's not the same as paying for something that you have already paid income tax on, because you're not going to pay income tax on money that is coming from the business. If you're a sole trader, it's slightly different if you are a company and you'd need to look at how that works for you. But I'm talking kind of about sole traders here who are managing their own finances. Now, you might have an accountant or whatever, but it's that this is the way the money works. The money comes into the business, you pay out the money, and then you can pay yourself whatever it is that you feel is reasonable. And then you pay tax on everything at the end. But it just means that you haven't paid income tax on it first if you're paying for something for the business rather than, say, taking yourself out on holidays or out for lunch. So there you go. That was a little bit of an insight. That was a little bit of an insight into the kind of conversations and questions we're having in your Birth Biz, the membership. And if these questions resonated with you and you'd like a little bit more hands-on support with this, along with the resources and community, I'd love to welcome you into your Birth Biz, the membership when the doors open. If you are signed up for the masterclass that's on tomorrow, the 12th of June, you will be the first to be invited in. So I hope to see you there. If you haven't signed up yet and you're listening to this prior to the time the masterclass starts, you can still sign up now. And if you have found this episode helpful, would you do me a tiny favor? I would love for you to screenshot it on your phone and share that you were listening to it on Instagram and tag me, or leave me a quick rating or review wherever you are listening to this podcast. It really does help more people find me and helps them find more of this support. And I hope it keeps birth workers doing the work that they're doing, because you're getting that little bit more support, and it does help keep the podcast going as well. So until next time, take care, trust yourself, and keep on going. Before you go, just a quick reminder, if you're ready to find more clients without relying on social media all the time, don't forget to register for my free masterclass, Beyond the Feed. It's happening Thursday the 12th of June at 7 p.m. Dublin time, 2 p.m. New York, and it's especially for birth workers who want more reads and more results from your marketing. There's a replay too, so even if the time doesn't suit, you won't miss out. The link to save your spot is in the show notes. I'd love to see you there.